Hey everybody, we are live on a Wednesday afternoon, and it turns out today is going to be a very busy day for Marvel news. Woke up and the Madam Web trailer had dropped, ate my lunch, found out the What If trailer had dropped, and then it's report. Whoa. Uh-oh. It's the problem with having tabs open when doing live streams with your own stream in it. You start to hear your own voice. But then I go to shoot some videos, and it drops that Destin Daniel Cretton, the director of Shang-Chi, who had been attached to Kang Dynasty, has stepped away from the project. So this is being reported, there we go, by Deadline, all the sources. This is not rumor mill, this is not speculation. This is, he is no longer directing Kang Dynasty. But it's not that he's leaving Marvel. It makes it very clear that he is, let's focus in on this one. He is still attached to do Wonder Man, which I guess had already started shooting, and they're going to pick up after Thanksgiving. And he wants to continue developing Shang-Chi 2. So I've been saying in videos, when are we going to see Shang-Chi again? When are we going to see Shang-Chi again? He's working on Shang-Chi 2. And then it specifically says, to make it clear, like, he's not leaving Marvel. He's not in trouble. He's not on bad terms. He's amicable with them. But it says, in fact, Cretin is in talks with Marvel Studios about directing future movies. So they had him attached to do their next gigantic film, Kang Dynasty. He's out, but he's still doing the other things he was still working on, and they're looking at him for more projects. All of that is very interesting to me in the specific context we are in right now, which is to say, there are a lot of reports that are not so great about this movie, which is to say, the long-term writer for it, Jeff Loveness, or not long-time, the guy that had been writing it, was announced to write. Jeff Loveness is off the project as of this month. So within the last 2 weeks, this project has lost its writer and director. And when Loveness dropped out, or was no longer revealed he was no longer attached, a bunch of people were like, oh, good riddance. This is the moron that wrote their worst movie, Quantumania. This guy doesn't know how to write. I don't know how good of a writer he is. I can't speak to all of that. But what I can say is that the way a lot of these projects are being run right now, I don't blame the writers. I blame the Parliament. This book, many articles have talked about how there's this creative group of producers right now, and that's the they, that whenever the America Chavez actress says they asked for 33 rewrites, that's the Parliament that's discussed in here. That it's these producers that are kind of the secret directors. They're the ones with actual creative control that are reworking all of these movies like crazy. So they hired Jeff Loveness, writes some drafts, and he's out. Daniel Cretton, director of Shang-Chi, he's out. And then there's other reports, also from the last couple of weeks, that they might be moving away from Kang. Variety, of course, had their big piece all last week. That's what this channel was covering. That they don't have they're not confident in Kang because of course, the Jonathan Majors situation. But also, it's not getting traction the way they hoped. That, of course, Quantumania wasn't the banger it needed to be. And in fact, it hurt Kang's reputation because of how easily he was defeated. It's not getting the traction they hoped, so they may be thinking about a pivot. Said that in Variety, 3 weeks ago. And then over the last, whenever the Jeff Loveness report came out that the screenwriters are no longer attached, the language was, well, they don't need me anymore because they're not doing that anymore. And then the next week, we don't need our director anymore. We love him. He's still doing that one. He's still doing that one. We're talking about him for those ones. But the event, the big one, guaranteed to be the biggest movie of Cretton's career, that's the one he drops out of. But we still want him for the future. I don't know. This feels like where there's smoke, there's fire. And that's what this feels like to me, that Kang Dynasty as a project, it feels like they're moving away from it, they're reworking it, they're reshuffling their, like, it feels like that project as a whole is in question for a lot of reasons and a lot of evidence from a lot of sources. And they're not even like speculation anymore. It's no longer rumors. It's no longer, I heard a guy say, the project doesn't have a writer or a director anymore. While there's rumors that they're moving away from this film entirely. Doesn't seem good. And do I think that's good or bad? It's so tough to say. I don't trust the Parliament. I don't trust that section of things where they have the they that reworks the movies, demands reshoots, demands, like, keeps reshuffling things. As long as the they is running things and hasn't radically reshuffled what they're doing, I'm suspicious. I don't trust them because it's not working. The more I see some of these projects, and I like what feels like it was directed by committee, it kind of was. Just, it's not called committee, it's called Parliament. You hire someone that you can control, that's willing to have you just have them do 33 rewrites or whatever, keep rewriting it, and then you start shooting the movie and you keep changing it up, and then you do reshoots and you keep changing it up all the way to the last minute, you keep changing it up. Who wants to work under those conditions that's talented? If you have a vision to make a movie, why would you work in that condition? Why would you want to write that? Why would you want to work for that if these are the people that actually have the power and the say? So you can't attract top writers, top directors, and it's not a, like, unnamed producer person. That's not a director, that's not a writer, is the person that's determining the script and the actual movie that's released, the secret director. It's not a good way to do things. So I think this is just a continuation of what all these reports have been saying, what I've made way too many videos talking about, that Marvel is realizing it's not working. The direction isn't getting the momentum it's supposed to get. There's a lot more frustration from people, and their Parliament micromanaging, doing all this stuff, it's not producing films of the same quality. There's more and more movies that they're fun, but we've had plenty. There's no need for another fun Marvel movie. We've had that before. I want a good story. I want great characters. I want something compelling, deeper, interesting, not just another funny Marvel movie. So I don't know. That's kind of my take on what I'm seeing with all of this. Max Reviews, so many videos on this subject. Literally, it's a video, it's a live stream about news that just broke 30 minutes ago. I've made 0 videos about this director leaving because it just happened. So I think, so kind of bring it up, Loki Season 2 works as a fine conclusion to Kang if they want to end. It's crazy that the rumored article claimed that Season 2 of Kang set up Kang massively. So that's where it's a little bit tricky, because on the one hand, well, the Loki Season 2 finale really can go in either direction. You can interpret what He Who Remains as saying, they're out there, you're freeing it all up. And now the war's going to happen because of that, setting up Kang Dynasty. Or you can take the final thing that Loki does as Loki saved the day. They can go either way with it. That was how I would kind of interpret it. But yeah, the source saying that they got themselves in trouble, Loki Season 2 might have resolved this problem for them, where even if it wasn't their actual intention to do that. But yeah, I see some questions coming in here. Who would be a good director for Kang Dynasty? First off, as I said already, I'm in question of whether this movie's even going to happen. I'm not convinced this movie's going to happen when it feels like you lose your writer, director, and rumors that they're shifting in a different direction towards Doctor Doom. Right there, I'm not sure this is happening. And even in the article says they have him eyed for future movies, other movies, which could potentially mean they have him eyed for Avengers 4. It's just not Kang Dynasty. Or maybe it's Avengers 5, Secret Wars becomes Avengers. How many are we at? Yeah, wait. He's eyed for whatever the one is after Secret Wars. Secret Wars shifted up. I don't know. But I suspect this project is being radically reworked, and we're doing Doctor Doom or something like that instead. They're just redoing their whole thought process, strategy. Maybe we'll do Secret Wars as our next Avengers. But, like, who do I think are good potential directors to do a future Avengers movie? I think it's tough to say because I really like Destin Daniel Cretton. I didn't necessarily immediately think he's the perfect director to do next Avengers, though. And there's not an obvious contender because a lot of they're not doing movies that feel like they're building out the universe. Where you know, going from Captain America: Winter Soldier to Civil War, it was like, yeah, you're building up to be our Avengers director on this grand scale. But Shang-Chi doesn't feel like that sets up doing a team-up movie. Like, Winter Soldier is even a team-up movie. It's a small team-up, and then it was a bigger team-up with Civil War, and then it was the 2 biggest movies of all time, massive team-up. But who do they have that makes sense to do a team-up movie? What projects have they done that really set that up? That's kind of my frustration, that I don't even know who the Avengers are right now, and they're not building up their star directors or star characters. That's the issue. So you start getting just generic stuff like, well, maybe the Russos should come back. Maybe they should. I wouldn't have said that I want them to do other things. We did that experiment. I said I wanted them to do that. We did it. They got their drama, their action movie. Neither one of them were nearly as good as their Marvel films. Maybe they should come back and do Kang Dynasty or whatever this, you know, Doom Dynasty, whatever it turns into. Maybe that's the direction that we should go with this. But I don't really have someone in mind that I would want to take over. I don't think there's an obvious person, but even kind of more importantly, back to what I keep saying, so long as the Parliament, so long as I don't know why, every time I say Parliament, I pick up this book as if this book says Parliament on it or this book is the Parliament. This is just a book where I heard the phrase, but they gave me all this backstory on stuff that will highly affect the MCU ranking that I was filming in the middle when I decided to do this live stream. But as long as the Parliament is micromanaging everything, I don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as who's a team player that works with them well? I don't know. I feel like all of these projects where they're micromanaging the script and the direction and the edit, all of them are lackluster, mid, and don't live up to the expectations. They're not as good as they should be. So, and I don't know who's a director that can come in that they will let them actually direct the film. As long as the Parliament is micromanaging everything, I just don't think it's a good idea. I think they need to rethink how they're doing stuff to fix it. It's deeper than who's directing. The structure, the leadership, the guidance, all of that is spread too thin. It's taxed. It's too big for its own britches. They're juggling too many balls. Pick whatever analogy you want. They've got problems, and it's not coming together all that well. So I don't have anyone in mind for who should do it, because the Parliament's directing it anyway. They're just getting a yes man right now. Maybe they're fixing that. Maybe they're trying to rework that and come up with something different that worked like just it. But so I don't have anyone in mind that I want to do it. All right, we had a super chat come in from, this gentleman has a fantastic name, Sean Payton. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, Sean, do you think the beginning of next year will Kevin Feige address the future of the MCU? So I don't know. The last several years, they've had these Disney Investor Days in December where that's a big one where they've made their huge announcements as to what's coming out. And that's where they announced a lot of these TV shows, a lot of these projects. I don't know. I don't think they'll do that again for a couple reasons. One, I think too many things are in shuffle. Two, they screwed themselves over by doing that. That's actually another thing they talk about in this book, about how those Disney Investor Days were essentially the business people up here went to Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige are like, our stock price is plummeting due to COVID, shutting down our parks, movies aren't coming out. We need you to get people excited so our stock price will go up. So go out there and announce as many things as you can. So they were pressured to announce projects that were way down the line. Like, they had a note on the board that said Armor Wars. They didn't have a plan for Armor Wars. And then Kevin Feige comes out and announces it. Stock price goes up. Several years later, where are we with that project? 3 years later, where are we on it? Well, now it's maybe a movie. We don't know what we're doing with it. So I don't think they're going to do a Disney Investor Day like they did in the past with these big announcements. I don't think we're going to, I don't know when to expect Kevin Feige to do his, here's what's coming in the future. I don't know when to expect it because it feels like it would be like, why would we wait until mid next year for Comic-Con or D23? But clearly they're making a lot of changes. They're reshuffling, they're rethinking. The strike, I think in that regard, helped them. Where you have months, we don't have our writers, let's just stop and think about it. Let's evaluate. And then you look at the performance of the Marvels. You look at the response to Quantumania. You look at what went down with Secret Invasion. And they had, like, they're not stupid. If you're Kevin Feige and your lowest Rotten Tomatoes films in the first 15 years of your franchise was Thor the Dark World with 66%, and you look at what's come out over the last few years, you go, people aren't responding like they did before. You can see the numbers dropping. They have to be dramatically reevaluating. And what they don't want to do is what they did in 2020, which was announce 1,000 things, throw a bunch of things out there, and then it doesn't come out and doesn't happen. They don't want to do that. So I don't know when Kevin Feige will address it. I don't know when we will get that. I don't expect it at the Disney Investor Day next month in any significant fashion. Maybe some update if they do that again. And I wouldn't expect it at the beginning of next year. I think they really are trying to drastically reevaluate things and step back. How do we correct the ship? Because this is not good. And every time people like me say that, like, Marvel's in a bad place, then they go, oh, you guys are bipolar. 1 minute you're saying it's burning down, the next day you're praising Loki season 2. When we say the MCU is hurting and struggling, what we mean is the MCU as a whole. It's not that individual projects aren't strong. There are individual projects that are still great. Guardians Volume 3. Loki Season 2. But the MCU as a whole, that cohesiveness, that excitement for the MCU has dwindled. Where it used to be, new Marvel movies coming out, can't wait to see it. Then it was, well, I'll probably go see this one. Then it was, I need to be convinced there's too much, and so I'm sitting out on a lot of these TV shows. I need to be convinced that this is one worth watching. That whole water cooler, must-see, everything's an event, it's not there anymore. It's not as strong. That momentum, that excitement. And it's a lot of different things that I've talked about in a lot of different movies or videos, but a lot of it is so much that we don't even know who the stars are. There's too many characters, too spread out, and we don't know when we're going to see them again. Shang-Chi being a great example that has already been 2 years. We don't have anything on the calendar where we're going to see him again in the near future. We're hearing, even in this report, hey, Cretin's working on Shang-Chi 2. When does it come out? You just announced release dates for the next 2 years, in which case, by the time this movie comes out, it will have been, 5 years since the first one? Who are our Avengers? We don't know. Who's the star of our Avengers? We don't know. It's too spread out, and that's frustrating. FMB Studios. Should Feige come out and publicly acknowledge the MCU has been struggling and they plan to fix things? Give people more confidence for the future. First off, thank you so much for the super chat. It's a little bit of a tough one there on how to answer that. Because you don't want to throw your own studio under the bus too much. You don't want to just overtly, we suck, and now we don't want to suck. Like, you don't want to do that. and you don't want to make it feel like you're especially picking on any one project, any one movie. I think there's a way to come out and say, like, hey, we're seeing what you guys are saying. We hear what you're saying, and we're listening. And maybe a little something's missing, and we're trying to get back to it. Like, we're aware. We know. We hear you. We want to fix it too. I think there's a way to do that handles it properly. But you got to find the way to do it properly and figure out what that is. Just coming out and saying, we screwed up, the MCU's in shambles. No. You don't say it's in shambles. You say, yeah, we had some missteps. We were overly ambitious. We tried to do too much. Bob Iger already did that. Bob Iger talked about brand dilution, talking about Disney Plus, that we had so many things coming out that it made individual ones less special. And Bob Iger's acknowledged it. I think it would go a long way for Kevin Feige to say that I think we put out too much in too short of a time period, and we've learned a lot from doing that. We're hearing everything you're saying. We see it too, and we're trying to get back. I think there's some value in doing that. So I'd be for that. Cinemaze, would you rather continue with Kang but recast or pivot the plans and go to Doom? First off, I hesitate to even jumping to we have to recast Jonathan Majors because he's not guilty yet. There are charges. There's a trial. It doesn't look good. It puts Marvel in a terrible position. I have no idea how that's going to play out. It's unfortunate, but he hasn't been convicted. So I don't want to say, we got to recast him. That's, I think, part of the problem. Like, if we recast him, we are definitely throwing him under the bus. If he's not guilty and we recast him, oh crap. What have we done? We shipwrecked a guy's career over false accusations. So you say, well, this already wasn't working, so we pivot over here to Doctor Doom. If I'm given the options on the table, should they... It's tough to say without knowing what the plot is. It's tough to say without knowing what the actual pitch is. I think Doctor Doom has much more general public recognition than Kang. Kang isn't like nobody character, but Doctor Doom is more well known. He's already been the villain in wide release comic book movies. Just in general, he's more established as a Fantastic Four villain that makes him an easier sell to the public than Kang, who's not, he hasn't been in a movie before. Comic book readers know who he is, but he hasn't had as mainstream appearances. So I think just in that regard, it helps. I don't even know if, like, I would almost think maybe a hybrid option's the best one where maybe we minimize the importance of Kang. Maybe it's a both. Like, all right, don't put all the weight on Jonathan Majors' shoulders. Don't put all the weight on Kang's shoulders. Let's bring Doom in. Maybe there's some mashup in there, but without knowing the story, without knowing the actual full pitch, it's tough for me to say which direction they should go because it's not about the character. I want a good story. You can tell a terrible story with either character, and you can tell a great story with either character. Whichever one serves the story is the one that I am more interested in. You mentioned your ranking, your MCU ranking, your filming is an update of all the Disney Plus shows and MCU movies together. First off, thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, actually, like I was literally, the reason I'm wearing this, well, I was about to tell you information that you didn't have already. I started filming my MCU ranking of all the movies and TV shows together, my annual one. I do the movies, TV shows together, do big update on it once per year after the last big release. So that was the Marvels. And this one, it's huge update, like from reading this book plus 2 other books, MCU Timeline, plus the official MCU coffee table book about their history, reading 1,000 articles. So trying to do an update of my ranking where I'm having really different notes, different thoughts, trying to have a different thesis than I had before. Same me, same my opinion, some shuffling, but attacking the movies and TV shows from a different direction and how I talk about them. A lot of them being kind of the behind the scenes, the history of what made them be movies that worked or didn't work. But yeah, I started filming it yesterday. It's 45 movies and TV shows. That's a long shoot, so I'm doing the second shoot today and probably the third shoot tomorrow. But yeah, that's what I'm been with. So says, is Wonder Man still happening? Because if it does, then Doctor Doom can play a role in Secret Wars going against Kang. I mean, the article that let me pull this up. We can pull this up like just like the headline. That's the same exact headline that's the spawning this little live stream about him leaving the project, leaving Kang Dynasty, says he remains aboard Wonder Man. Like, and it says it continues filming after the Thanksgiving break. Let me see, where is that? Yeah, it's right in there. Resumes filming. If you can highlight this for you. What am I doing? Right there. The series resumes shooting after Thanksgiving. So that it is fully still happening, still in the works, all good. Someone is trying to troll us right here. Do you think Kathleen Kennedy would do better than Feige? Savage. Kathleen Kennedy is a legendary executive producer. She's a legendary get it done producer working for a creative. I think her time as the head of a studio has been a disaster. And I would prefer that she did not bring her calamity to Marvel Studios. Disney nerd. Hey, man. Thanks for joining over here. He's actually deputized, actually probably not on this channel, but on my main channel, he's deputized to be able to moderate my chats on these live streams. Hello, Sean. Do you plan to do genre rankings towards the end of the year? Comic book films, horror films? I guess what you're asking, do I plan on doing videos with my ranking the comic book movies I saw, ranking the horror movies I saw, ranking the Indian films that I saw? I saw a lot of Bollywood and Tamil movies this year. Yes is the answer. I absolutely plan on doing that. Thank you so much for the super chat. And if you guys, this is actually a good point. If you guys don't know, I do live streams every single week on my Patreon. they're less stressful to do over there, but I do about 1.5 per week. Half because I don't do both of them every single week. So, but I'm doing on average 1.5 per week. One is a Q&A and one is a box office show. This Sean Chandler Plus is currently like 90% the pieces from those. I answer everybody's questions. I tackle all sorts of stuff. I normally clip out about 25 minutes per week of the live streams. They're 90 minutes, 2 hours long. So consider joining on Patreon if you like these live streams where I interact with people. Disney Nerd is in almost every single one of those. I actually know him quite well from all of that, and that's why I trust him to moderate my live streams. I'll go for a few more minutes on here. Then I got to get going because I got to finish shooting that MCU ranking and editing my Hunger Games video. Actually, I haven't even posted my short about Hunger Games because I did this instead. Meant to do that on the main channel. But I've seen the new Hunger Games. It is good. It is not great. Parts of it are two parts of it are great. One part of it feels tacked on at the end. It's very oddly structured. Here's an interesting question. The genre. What genre do you think is the strongest this year? Horror, action. It's been a good year for action. Action, I don't think hasn't had too many great years. But when you've got John Wick 4, Extraction, Sisu, I think we've had quite a few solid action movies. And then since I've been watching these Bollywood and Tamil action films, some of those are really cool too. So I'm gonna go action, but. Horror's had a couple of good years now. I think horror's in a really nice spot. Slice Dude, I answered this in my full review that I've shot, but it'll come out tomorrow. Should I watch the original Hunger Games before the new one? I know it's a prequel. Yes. I think the first Hunger Games is a better on ramp. I think it kind of is, not that it is like you can, if it, the movie probably plays radically different. Actually, that'd be interesting to know someone who enters the world of the Hunger Games through this movie versus the first one. So, because it's about these horrific tyrannical games, and the original set of films is told through the perspective of one of the people that's forced to fight in them, and this one is told from the perspective of one of the people that are like overseeing the games. Two very different perspectives. Anyway, oh, here's a quick important one. 31 on 31 autop stream this year. So after we do our 31 on 31s, we do a debrief. I believe it's a week. It's like I think it's like next Monday or something like that. It's coming up. It's happening. We have it scheduled in our minds. We know when it is. How do you feel about Wonka? I have put out I reacted to at least one of the trailers that contains my thoughts on it. Do you think that Kevin Feige is part of the they group, the Parliament executives in charge at Marvel, and do you think that he is okay with this? I mean, I think that the concept of the Marvel Studios Parliament, once again, got to hold up my book whenever I say Marvel Studios Parliament, the they is that it no longer was possible for Kevin Feige to oversee all of it. So even back in the past, he said, we're only going to do 2 movies per year because I can't oversee many more than that. So then it expands. They start doing 3 per year. But when they were doing 3 per year, it was with directors that had been around for a while. Most of the directors by phase 3 had done something before. So you'd have 1 new director and then like 2 returning directors. A lot of screenwriters that had been around a long time, part of the story group. So you had this very confident, strong team that he'd worked with a long time. Then Disney Plus comes along, executives tell him, you have to make a zillion TV shows plus movies. Well, he can't oversee all of that. So all of a sudden, some producers start getting promoted, getting more power. And instead of Kevin Feige being the secret sauce for everything, they have this committee trying to do the same thing, and it's not as good. So it's not that the they is separate from him. I think he would be, the Parliament would be like him and his producers team that are giving oversight, that are giving the notes. But they're not all as good as him. It's more complex than it was before. So they can't give individual oversight to individual films like they did before. Also, I've got to say, hey, Tony, nice to see you in the chat. Met him at MegaCon in the past. And it took me a long time, but I finally was able to do that Daniel Blumkamp ranking, watched all of his movies, and it was so exciting to actually finally watch them. And, I understand why you are a big fan of his stuff. And hopefully we can get more of that original Blumkamp flavor, from like District 9. All right, I'm only going to go a few more minutes, so I got some super chats in here, and then I've got a couple other things I was going to, a couple more, but I literally need to go and finish shooting my MCU ranking. So I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just not going to be live streaming anymore. Bo Gill with a super chat. Thank you so much, kind sir. Like you said, we have no idea who the new Avengers are, so do you have any idea on who they could be? So, I mean, I think some of it is, it's not, like, we kind of know in the sense that who are the people that are out there, like, I guess it can be Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, and then I think I can say this now, seems like they're looking to do some Young Avengers stuff, which Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel, Cassie, Ant Girl, so I think we're setting up some Young Avengers stuff, but then we've also set up the Thunderbolts. So it's like we kind of have 3 teams that we're building towards, while also still having the Eternals out there, and wanting to do all these one-off characters that are in darker universes. That's weird. Weird. Why is it so spread out? Why do we have 3 different teams that we don't know, or 4 or 5 different teams we don't even know when we're getting follows up on any one of these ones? But Thor's still out there, so if Chris Hemsworth, he said he's kind of retiring or backing down because of serious health concerns. So maybe he would come back, maybe he wouldn't. I don't know, whichever things have come out recently, but yeah, it's a Spider-Man. So we got some Spider-Man in there, but like because we've never like you're like Doctor Strange with Captain Marvel with Shang-Chi with Spider-Man. We've kind of seen a couple of these people interact a little bit, but not really. Hulk's still out there. We got maybe She-Hulk showing up, but like it doesn't feel they feel so spread out, and you can't imagine what's the dynamic when they're talking. What's the tone of the movie? That's the problem with having it so spread out and doing so few kind of events that pull them together. But man, I don't know. Especially when it's like, so I got it right here. Is Yelena, is she going to be in the Avengers, or is she only in the Thunderbolts? Like, can she be in multiple things? And who's the leader of our Avengers? Like, we spent a lot of time with our Doctor Strange. We've seen quite a bit of him. He showed up in several projects. When does he show up next? And he doesn't come off like the leader type. He's smart, but not the leader type. Who's our leader? Who should it be? I don't know. And that is so much of the problem here. The Disney Nerd, thank you so much once again. I'm going to do a few more minutes. Proceeds to talk for 30 minutes in classic Sean Chandler fashion. That is true. I don't know, the deal is here. It's exactly kind of what it looks like, which is to say, I don't do a lot of live streams on the main channel, and so some of it's because they always do become they suck me in, and they kind of turn into long deals. But I want to answer everybody's questions. They're kind of fun, but they're also kind of stressful. Doing a live stream without my wife here or someone else to pick the questions for me is tough. It's hard, and as soon as someone else can kind of do it for me, it kind of takes a weight, because like trying to read while talk it's tricky, so messes me up. Peter Frost, Bloodsport and Street Fighter II 1994 would make for a great double feature. I am one of the people that saw Street Fighter in the theater when it first came out, and Bloodsport is the first rated R movie I ever saw, so I'm going to go with I agree. What do you think the TVA's role will be in Deadpool 3 now that they have switched to going after Kang variants and not just other variants? I don't know. I was waiting for a tease in Loki. I thought we were going to get a post-credit Deadpool walking out, winking at the camera. He's got a mask on. What are you talking about, winking at the camera? I thought we'd get something, but without that being the case, I don't know. Like, the rumors are that Deadpool's going after the TVA, or he's trying to find the ultimate Wolverine, like some variant, something like that, jumping through realities. I don't know. I don't try to follow the rumors because I like to be surprised and experience it properly, but there's lots of rumors the TVA plays into Deadpool 3. I would assume because it's irreverent, it's I don't know how much it's going to tie into the grander lore in a meaningful sense. Okie dokie. I'll throw this one up here, though I have a non-answer to it. Aryan, if they pivot to Doctor Doom, who would you cast as Doom? I don't know. Anytime you're talking about who should you cast as this, the problem with fan casts is that we don't have the script. We don't know what the characterization is. We don't know what the journey is. Is Doctor Doom always in the mask and the hoodie? Or are we starting with him normal, with the mask off? Those are two wildly different things. And who's even on the table? And what do we need to capture when he's got the mask off? I need to know all of that to be able to say who should play Doctor Doom. So I have no clue. No idea. Because we don't even know. When's he showing up? Or who do you think would look really good with a metal face and a hoodie so you can't see his height, body, anything like that? Or so we're just saying who has a good voice? Like, what do I need to know more to be able to elaborate on it. Cinemaze up again. Marvel should not have gone multiverse. I don't, on that statement alone, I don't know that they should have put all their eggs in the multiverse basket of the whole thing's multiverse. I think doing a little fun multiverse, people love it. No Way Home. When you do it with the right project, people love it. Well, I guess anytime you do it with Spider-Man, people love it, but it's not just generic multiverse that people love. There's certain characters, there's certain options that people are powerful, but making it the multiverse saga, that's where I'd probably agree with you. It needs a smaller scale and personal instead of bigger. Make a fight for the team, or who are the Avengers now? Facing the government's dark Avengers, Thunderbolts. I think if you're just like, how do you out Endgame? Multiverse! Portal scene, but with multiverse! And you just like, what is the biggest thing you can possibly imagine? That's it. Okay, you did it. How do you get there? And how do you build to that over 20 projects? That's the hard part. But yeah, I don't. It's tough to think that their current strategy is working. Max Endelman, who are the directors you would love to see do Avengers 5 and 6 and why? Love your stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the super chat. It's tough to say because I feel like it's Parliament, the executives that are making decisions, that have creative control. And you see that in all of these interviews. Harper says they just want control, and he's not referring to the writer or the director. The American Chavez said they wanted 33 rights, and it wasn't Sam Raimi, it wasn't the writer. And it's not my movie, it's Kevin Feige's movie. They're kind of the, so as long as they are things, like I'm skeptical about it. I don't really go, oh yeah, sounds good to me. I'm skeptical. I'm not quite sure who I think should do it. And that's my immediately go, that's the thing. Like Uso, I go inside Marvel with it, what they could do. I go, okay, you should come back. Maybe you're the right people to do this. And the writing that seemed to know how Feige worked here, delivered great. Make the Russos, but like normally they to do who one of their that seem like control of the film. I don't know who that is. There's like a lot of things the director is doing. They're doing that. They're not working. Style, creative control, the edit, rewrites, all of that is coming from the Parliament, not the director. I'm sure it's not. Obviously, the directors have say. So I think that's where I don't know. Like, there's not that obvious person. Like Ryan Coogler, I just don't, like, it doesn't seem like the specific thing made Black Panther special doesn't translate to now. Do that with the Avengers. Like and maybe he'd be great at it because it's not like just because you did one thing that's the only thing you could do. So maybe he'd be great. And he seemed to have been able to put his mark on his. I don't really know. I don't have a person that immediately comes to mind because I just don't trust them. All right, so see, I guess good thing I caught this one and everything. What about Watts? So what do I think about the Spider-Man doing it? I did a good job on those movies with doing this John Huston's take on Spider-Man that's very high school. Almost that's the exact reason it's not an obvious direct one-to-one movie. That he did so well was capturing youthful energy. Should he direct Young Avengers? I kind of like that. I hadn't thought before. For Avengers, directors do more than one thing. Maybe he'd be great at it. But Young Avengers, he was really good with the youthful energy of Spider-Man. Now let's do that with. Maybe that would be great. Did well with multiverse stuff in Way Home. I think script issue, like No Way Home, is such an anomaly of a film that it shouldn't have been nearly as good as it was. The story on paper is not as good as the movie itself. You have to stop and think. 2 years and 2 months before the movie came out, Marvel Studios and Sony broke up. And then they got back together. And it was a movie. They were rewriting it while they were shooting it. And they were like desperately trying to recruit people. Like it was a chaotic, crazy shoot during COVID. And they pulled it off. Tim Sim with a super chat. Thank you so much, kind sir. Greatly appreciated. Feels kind of bad that I'm apparently the only one that enjoyed all the MCU things post-Endgame except Secret Invasion. But I agree, when looking at the diminishing returns, that scaling back the number of projects and the budgets is needed. Yeah, and I wish that I felt the same way as you, had kind of more fun with them. And there's other people, I on Twitter in particular, I see people all the time that they're like, I think Phase 4 was just as good as Phase 3. I don't think there has been a diminishing returns. There were always weaker projects. There's a lot of people saying that. I think for people like myself and a lot of us, where we have a certain amount of frustration, is that sense of the story being the MCU as a whole, the connectedness, the team-ups, the main story momentum feels spread too thin. And that's the frustration that a lot of people have. That's where the diminishing returns are. The highs, I wouldn't say they're as high, but there are still highs. And I would certainly say the lows are lower. But there's a lot of people that have enjoyed it. Apparently I had bad connection. I'm sorry. I checked my internet speed right before I started. It's one of the reasons I don't do a lot of live streams. Is it is really frustrating when it kicks out. What are your thoughts on the Coyote versus Acme situation? Warner Brothers are idiots. They have made a series of decisions that's going to run off any director, writer, actor that has freedom of choice. There's a lot of directors, you just want any opportunity. Writers, any opportunity. Actors, any opportunity. But when you're in demand, when you're really good, why would any of those people go and work for Warner Brothers when they're shelving movies? I do, this is actually an instance where I do have some inside scoop stuff on it. Can't say too much except to say that, like, as you can imagine, everyone that worked on the movie was furious. And one of the people that worked on it was James Gunn. So the most prominent creator at Warner Brothers is furious over what they did. It was just utter foolishness. Disaster of a situation to, like, burn that many burn people like that. So anyway, it sounds like my internet's being finicky. Already went 40 minutes longer than I meant to. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I need to do more of these live streams. I know it. I need to do more live streams on the main channel. I don't sense that I don't do a lot of live streams because I do 2 per week. Or 1.5 per week. Saturdays, I do a Q&A on Patreon. Mondays or Tuesdays, I do a box office show. That's where all the clips on this channel come from. So if you like this kind of content, consider joining over on Patreon. I answer everybody's questions over there. Like, I go through everyone's questions in order. So consider joining. Some people in here, Disney Nerd, he's in almost every single one of them. So much so, he's been deputized on my main channel to moderate the chat. Thank you guys so much for watching, and keep talking movies and too much cinemas. Thanks for the stream. Thanks for answering 3 of my questions. Thanks for having input. And I, of course, remember your username and remember you. So it's one of the reasons that you stuck out in my mind to put yours out on the screen. Talk to you later, everybody. Bye-bye.